Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Please give me just a second. I realize that the microphone's pointed a little bit off. I'm going to readjust it. And hopefully that will be better. Technical fun. Hanukkah Sameach, Shabbat Shalom. As you can see, we've already lit everything because it's really dark outside. But I want to make sure that we still have the opportunity to say all the blessings together. And so what we always try to do is get here and get all the candles lit and then be able to do the blessings together. And then what a great joy once the days start getting longer and eventually we hit the point where we can light the candles together. But yeah, the halacha of when we light the Hanukkah candles is we try to do it after sundown so that we can see them. And the halacha is to not light them on our kitchen table. It's actually to light them outside of our houses, on the gates, on the way to our houses. And that's changed over time because how many times through Jewish history has that been a little dangerous, which is a sobering reminder of how much of our halacha actually is about protecting us from danger. So as that's evolved over time, a lot of times it's in the windows, and of course if it's unsafe for you to have your Chanukia in the window, then we light it on our table where no one can see it. But I'm reminded of a story that I think everyone should know, and it is not only from my home country, but it's also from my home state. The largest city in Montana is called Billings. And there was an event getting close to 30 years ago now that's now written up in the annals of American Jewish history. And there's a lot of versions of it. I watched a documentary of it 2 years ago, and the broad strokes of the story are that there were some acts of vandalism for Jews that had lit Chanukiot in their houses. And as was certainly the Montana that I grew up in, the neighbors who were not Jewish said, "We will not stand for that." And so the Billings Gazette, the local paper, ended up printing a large full-page picture of a Chanukia for people to put in their windows for solidarity. And I don't remember the number. I think it was around 18,000 people did this. And it's just a reminder that, boy, when we work together, we can do amazing things. And those people who had their house vandalized, imagine the healing that's done with thousands upon thousands of neighbors. It's a nice Hanukkah story. It's also a true one. And it makes us think of when have we been so bold as to start that sort of a movement and to support our neighbors, even our Jewish neighbors who might have a different way of observing Judaism than we do. How much do we support someone who is looked at a little bit differently? So let's say all of our blessings for our Hanukkah candles, then our Shabbos candles together. And so, to finish off the halacha, for Shabbat, of course, then we light the Chanukiah first and then the Shabbat candle second, because as soon as we light the Shabbat candles, no more lighting candles. So, here we are, second night of Hanukkah. Candles go from right to left. We light them with the new candle first, however, and I've been recommending everyone that you set an intentionality. The intentionality of the first candle for me has been the jab, and that is, may it come hashta ba'agala, speedily and in our days, that we can get back together here quickly. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kedushan b'mitzvotav, etzavanu lehadlik ner shel Chanukah. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, shasa nisim lavotenu, bayamim hahem b'zman hazeh. And then we light the candles with our shamash, and then we remind ourselves of our intentionalities, and that's what the Hanechot Halalu prayer is a reminder that we have these miracles from our past, but to remind us as well that the purpose of these candles is to look at and to enjoy and remember, not to use. And so if we happen to read by the light of a candle, it's this one, the Shamash. Hanerot halalu anu madlikim, hanerot halalu anu madlikim, al hanisim ve'al hatshuot, ve'al haniflaot, ve'al hanechamot, she'asita lavotenu, bayamim hahem, bayamim hahem uvzman hazeh. Ayidei konecha kdoshim, v'chol shmonat yimei Chanukah, hanerot halalu kodesh, ve'ein lanu reshut lishtamesh bahem, elo lirotam bilevad, k'dei leodot l'shimcha, al nesecha ve'al lishuatecha, ve'al niflotecha, ma'oz tzur yeshuati, l'chana el shabeach, tikon beit tefilati, V'sham toda nizabeach, le'et tashbit matbeach, mitzaham nebeach, az egmor b'shir mizmor, Chanukat hamizbeach, az egmor b'shir mizmor, Chanukat hamizbeach. Now, make sure in your prayer books that you stick your finger or a bookmark in page 374, because when we are in our Amidah, in the middle of the Modim, we flip forward to the Hanukkah prayer, the Al Hanisim. That'll be one of the few times I do an out loud prayer during a silent Amidah, just to make sure that we fulfill the mitzvah of adding to our Amidah during Hanukkah. So, many things going on, a festival of lights, and then the festival of light, Shabbat, where every week we bring light to the world. And with that, we start on page 111, the Chunaranana, our journey to prepare ourselves to actually be in this space together of Shabbat, page 111. Chunaranana, L'Adonai, Chunaranana, L'Adonai, Nariya L'Tzur Yishenu, Nariya L'Tzur Yishenu, Nekad mafanav betoda, bizmiro nariya lo. Nekad mafanav betoda, bizmiro nariya lo. Ki el gadol לאדוני ומלך גדול על כל אלוהים ומלך גדול לאדוני ומלך גדול על כל אלוהים אשר בין עמקי הארץ מטורפות הרים לו אשר לא הים והוא עשהו ויבשת ידיו יצרו בואי נשתחווה ונכרע נברא לפני אדוני עושינו כי הוא אלוהינו ואנחנו עם ארצו וצאן ידו היום קולו תשמעו
קודש תילו מפניו כל הארץ אמרו בגויים אדוני מלך עבדיקון תבן בעלתימות ידים נעמים במשרים ישמחו שמיים בדגל הארץ ירם הים ובלו יענו שדי בכל אשר בו ינאי אז יעננו כל הצייה לפני אדוני קיווה לשפוט הארץ ישפוט טבע בצדק ויאמין באמונתו ינאי
Adonai malach tagel haaretz yismechuim rabim anan varafel sevivav tzedek mishpat mechon kiso. Last 4 verses of page 115. Zarua la tzadik o yishrei lev simcha or zarua la tzadik o yishrei lev simcha simchu
צדיקים באדוני באדוני והודו לזכר קודשו לזכר קודשו אור זרוע לצדיק וישרה לב שמחה אור זרוע על הצדיק וישרה לב שמחה מזמור שיר לאדוני שיר חדש כי נפלאות עשה הושיע לו ימינו וזרוע קודשו הודיע אדוני ישועתו לעיני הגויים גילת צדקתו זכר חסדו ואמונתו לבית ישראל ראו כל אפסי הארץ את ישועת אלוהינו הריעו לאדוני כל הארץ פיצלו ורעננו וזמרו זמרו לאדוני בכינור וכל זמרה בחצוצרות וכל שופר הריעו לפני המלך אדוני ירמיים ומלואו תבל ויושביה נערות ימחה וכף יחד ההרים ירננו לפני אדוני קיבה ישפוט הארץ ישפוט תבל בצדק ועמים ומשרים יין נאי נאי יין נאי יין נאי 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 יין נאי 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 Adonai malach יגזו עמים יושב קרובים תנות הארץ אדוני בציון גדול ורמו הכל עמים יודו שמך גדול ונורא קדוש הוא bottom of page 118 Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Veishtachavu Lehar Kodsho Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Veishtachavu Lehar Kodsho Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Veishtachavu Lehar Kodsho Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Veishtachavu Lehar Kodsho Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu Avon Adonai b'nei Eli Avon Adonai Kavod va'oz Yahinai Avon Adonai Kavod shemo ishtachavu L'Adonai be'adrat kodesh Kol Adonai al hamayim ben hakavod hirim Mayim Rabbi Ol Adonai Bakoach Yahinai Nai Kol Adonai Be'adar Kol Adonai Shover אדוני את עזי הלבנון וירקידם כמו עגל לבנון וסיריון כמו בן רעמים יין נאי כל אדוני חוצב לעבודש כל אדוני יכיל מדבר יגיל אדוני מדבר קדש כל אדוני יכול אל איילות ויחסות יערות ובהחלום כולו אומר כבוד יחנאי נאי אדוני למה בו ישב וישב אדוני מלך לעולם אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום יין נאי 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 יין נאי 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 יין נאי נאי יין נאי יין נאי 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 יין 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 נאי נאי Yeah, nine, דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד השמיענו עם מיוחד אדוני אחד ושמו אחד לשם ותפארת ולתהילה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה כי מקור הברכה מראש מקדם נסוכה סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה מקדש מלך עיר מלוכה ומצא מתוך ההפכה רעב לשבת בעמק הבכה והוא יכול עלייך כולה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה נערי מעפר קומי לבשי בגדי טיפתך מי על יד בן ישי מתלך לי קרבה נפשי גאלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה התעוררי כי באורק ומאורי אורי שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלי תהילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. ינאי לך דודי לקראת כלה, ינאי בני שבת נקבלה. ינאי לא תבושי ולא תקמי, מה תשתוכחי ומה תהמי, מה יחסו עניי עמי ונבנתה עיר העתידה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, ינאי בני שבת נקבלה. ינאי לך דודי לקראת כלה, ינאי בני שבת נקבלה. ינאי והיו למשיסה שוסייך ורחקו כל מבלייך, יסיס עלייך אלוהייך ימסוס חתנה כלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, ינאי בני שבת נקבלה. ינאי לך דודי לקראת כלה, ינאי בני שבת נקבלה. ינאי ימים ושמאל תפרוצי ויד אדוני תריצי, על יד איש בן פחצי ונשמחה ונגילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, ינאי בני שבת נקבלה. ינאי לך דודי לקראת כלה, ינאי בני שבת נקבלה. ינאי בואי ושלום עטרת בהלה, גם בשמחה ובצולה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי כלה, בואי כלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, ינאי בני שבת נקבלה. ינאי לך דודי לקראת כלה, ינאי בני שבת נקבלה.
Bottom of 124.
Tzadik hatamar yifrach, ke'erez balvanon yisgei, shetulim beveit Adonai, bechatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu, or yenuvun beseva. Deshenim vera'ananim yiyu lehagid, ki yashar Adonai tzuri tzuri velo avla tabo. Adonai malach geut lavesh, lavesh Adonai osita zan, aftikon tevel batimot. נכון כיסך מאז מעולם אתה, נכון כיסך מאז me'olam ata.
Page 127. Blessed the living God, whom we are called to bless. Blessed is the living God, whom we are called to bless forever and ever. Page 128. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chokhmah potech she'arim, uvitvuna mishanei itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umsader et hakochavim, b'mishmerotehem, barakia kirtzono.
Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, and day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, and day turns to night. Boreon v'layla goleh or mipnei choshech goleh or mipnei choshech v'choshech mipnei or. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, and day turns to night. Roll into dark and roll into light. Night becomes day, and day turns to night. Boreon v'layla goleh or mipnei choshech goleh וחושך לפני אור. המעביר יום ומבין לילה, מבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו. ברוך אתה אדוני, המעריב הרבים. אהבת עולם בית ישראל, עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו, בשוכבנו ובקומנו, נשיח בחוקיך, ונשמח ונעלוז בדברי תורתך, ובמצוותיך, וחוקותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, ובהם נגע יומם ולילה, ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב את עמו ישראל.
Page 130.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Adonai Echad. Shem Kevod, Shem Kevod, Malchuto, Leolam, Leolam, Va'ed. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך והדברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובזקתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם נאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם למזוזות ביתך ובישעריך. Continuing silently on 132, V'hayam Shmat Shmat. כי מהשמיים על הארץ למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם, אמת ואמונה כל זאת וקיים עלינו, כי הוא אדוני אלוהינו, ואין זולתו, ואנחנו ישראל, עמו העושה גדולות עד אין חקר, ונפלאות עד אין מספר. והראו בניו גבורתו שבחו והודו לשמו ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם משה ומרים ובני ישראל לך אנו שירה בשמחה רבה ואמרו כולם מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדע בקודש, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדע בקודש. נורא תהילות עושה פלא, נורא תהילות עושה פלא אדוני מלכותך ברוך מלכותך אדוני אלוהינו רבניך על הים יחד כולם הודו והמליכו אדוני אמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד Ya na 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 ya na 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 ya na 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 ya na 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 Nora tehilot osef elei Nora tehilot osef elei Adonai yimloch leolam So what happens when you pull up the wrong music? V'ne'emar kifad Adonai Yaakov u'golo yimad chazak mimenu Baruch ata Adonai Gal Yisrael Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Leshalom Leshalom Vehamidenu Malkeinu Lechaim Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom Behamidenu Malkeinu lechaim Ufrosanenu Sukat shelomecha Ufrosanenu Sukat shelomecha Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Shalom L'Shalom Behamidenu Malkeinu L'Chaim Source of our life and our sovereign, cause us to lie down in peace and rise again to enjoy life. And spread over us the covering of your peace and guide us with your good counsel and save us for the sake of your name. Be a shield about us, turning away every enemy, disease and violence, hunger and sorrow. Remove the temptation that awaits us and the guilt that lies behind us. Shelter us in the shadow of your wings, for you are a God who guards and protects us, a ruler of mercy and compassion. Guard us when we go out and when we come in to enjoy life and peace, both now and forever, and spread over us the shelter of your peace. Blessed are you, God, spreading the shelter of peace over us, over your people Israel, and over all the world. Baruch atah Adonai, hapreskat shalom aleinu, ve'al mo Yisrael, ve'al kol ha'olam. Veshameru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam yadainai beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashemayim ve'et haaretz uvayom hashvi'i shavat vayinafash uvayom hashvi'i shavat vayinafash. Please rise. We're on page 140 for our silent Amidah. And don't forget, in the middle of the Modim, we skip to page 374 for the special Al Hanisim that we pray for Hanukkah. Adonai, Sefetayv Tiftach, Ufi Agita Hilatecha. Hanisim ve'al tishat shuot ve'al nechnot ve'al nechot shasita levatenu b'nei Yisrael. Rock of Ages, let us song. Praise your saving power, thou amidst the raging foes. You were our sheltering tower, our sheltering tower. Rock of Ages, let up a song. Praise thy saving power, thou amidst the raging foes. You were our sheltering tower, our sheltering tower. Furiously they assailed us, but thine arm availed us, and thy word broke their sword when our own strength failed us. And your word broke their sword when our own strength failed us, our own strength failed us. Children of the wanderers, whether free or fettered, wake the echoes of the songs, where ye may be scattered. Yours the message cheering, that the time is nearing, which will see all folks free and tyrants disappearing. Hope will see all folks free and tyrants disappearing.
I read an article had to do with code breaking. This is quite some years ago. And so if the information's wrong, then I suppose the people who may or may not be associated with our community or other Jewish communities in the area who might know something about code breaking, I can't imagine anyone in this area would possibly have any experience with that whatsoever. But you can tell me if this is right or wrong. But in the good old game of ciphers, in spy work and all those sorts of things. And I promise, this was not something I learned from anyone in any other country. I swear, it was an article. It was a very good article. Anyway, the way that ciphers work, or one of the ways that ciphers work, is that you have a plain text of your message, then you run it through a cipher, and then the person on the other end has the decoding for that. And of course, the trick is to find a cipher that you cannot then undo. And we know, thank goodness, Baruch Hashem, through Bletchley Park, just how powerful having a cipher and having your opponent not know about it can be. Well, anyway, in an attempt to have an unbreakable cipher in the United States, what they decided to do was record atmospheric noise. Just think about that for a second. And then create a mathematical pattern from that, because it's random, right? It's atmospheric noise. So create a pattern from that and then use that as your cipher, which is pretty cool. The only problem is in the Soviet Union, they had some of the greatest mathematicians in the field of chaos theory. And within chaos theory, which basically says that within any random complex system that you're going to have interconnectivities, and you're going to have feedback loops, and you're going to have repetitions, and you're going to have fractals, and you're going to have self-organization. In other words, random ain't random. And at some point, when the atmospheric ciphers were being used, it was something like 51% of all coded ciphers using this methodology were being decoded by chaos mathematicians in the Soviet Union. And I'm smiling because, not because I'm for one side or another on this one. I hold an American passport, and I'm very proud of that. But that's just funny as far as history goes. Well, what does that have to do with anything? I might make this sermon come back around to that, or it might just be that I was reminded of that article today, and I really wanted to tell that story. I guess it's kind of related to chaos, but we've got this word in Hebrew that has no translatable meaning, and the word is et. And I love this word. It's aleph tav, et. I love it for a couple reasons. One is it starts with the first letter of the alphabet and ends with the last. So this word that has no translation encompasses everything within it. The Kabbalists really got a lot of mileage out of that. And the reason it's non-translatable is because it's a linguistic particle that tells you that the next thing that you're going to read is the direct object of a sentence. So a famous et right off the beginning. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. Bereshit, in a time of beginning, bara, created, Elohim, God, et hashamayim, the heavens. So the heavens being the direct object of creation, and et haaretz, and also the earth. Et we don't translate, we just know linguistically that the direct object comes. Now, what the Kabbalists said, this is beautiful, when we asked the question, what was actually the first thing that was created, it was et. Because that's the word. Bereshit bara Elohim et. In the beginning, God created et. Well, what's et? Well, it's a determiner of what comes next. It means that what's happening is pushing to something that's tangible. It's a movement from intangible to tangible. So what's the first thing that's created? Well, the ability to have the will to create itself. Et. And within that snap, that spark of will, comes all other possibilities, all letters that fall between Aleph and Tav. And the reason I came up with wanting to talk about et today is not only because I really think Hebrew grammar is cool. Yes, I am that person. But because we have a moment in the Joseph story that just kind of blew my mind. And I've mentioned before that one of the many unique features of the Joseph story is that we don't have a direct conversation between the eternal and the main character, right? In Abraham and Isaac, and to a lesser extent, but still within Jacob, we have a voice of God, Vaydaber Adonai el Avraham lemor. God spoke to Abraham as follows, God spoke to Isaac as follows, and then God started speaking to Jacob in a dream, which is kind of how we see the evolution of what happens with Joseph. Joseph encounters an aspect of God in dreams, but basically what we hear is Joseph knew that God was with him. And we see that several times, 2 times in this current parashah, but the word with in Hebrew is im. In the parsha that we're reading this week, it says, Vayhi Adonai et Yosef. And God was, well, not im, et. God was et Joseph. What in the world could that possibly mean? Now, interestingly enough, there are, in that exact construction, Vayhi Adonai et, there are 4 times that that's used in the entire Tanakh, and the construction Vayhi Adonai im someone, God was literally with someone, also 4 times. Now, the 4 times where it's im, it's very casual. It's one king was favored over another, and so God was with a certain king. That's usually where that shows up. But the et, 4 times. The 2 times in the Joseph story, the first one being before the events happen with Potiphar's wife that get him into prison, and the second one that we're going to be reading tomorrow is the moment that he's in prison. Vayhi Adonai et. God was et Joseph. Not at, et. No translation. The other 2 times, one is in the book of Joshua, when Joshua and the Israelites are about to go to war with Jericho, and the final one is at the very beginning of the book of Judges, when the tribe of Judah is about to go to war with the Canaanites. 2 times that existence is about to change for a person, and therefore all Jews. The Joseph story is about what allows us to survive. and the other two about our existential survival according to our narrative. Is the text actually saying that God was with Joseph, or is it saying something else completely? Now, when we translate it into English, and every translation of Vayhi Adonai et Joseph that I could find in every language uses the word with. It's funny because when you study grammar, with is dative and et is accusative. So I'm going to submit it's a horrible translation. But what else are we going to call it? What else are we possibly going to say about that? And that's where we are in our lives as Jews today. We have a hard time using this phrase, God be with you. God is with you. As a matter of fact, we work really hard to not say that. From our Christian brethren, we hear this quite a lot. From our Christian sisters, we hear this term. When I went to Heston's church a few weeks ago for the interfaith service, and there's something beautiful about it, actually. At the end of service, hearing a pastor saying, God be with you. And of course, the response in a church is, and also with you, or some variation of that. But we're so terrified of God and saying God and talking about God in Judaism. I was actually told once in rabbinical school that if you talk about God, you'll be thrown out of your community. God, God, God. This is a religious institution here. We'd better have an idea of what we mean when we say God. So we replace it with other things. The times that we would say, may God be with you, well, I think in British Jewry, we replace it with this very fascinating, at a time of death, long life. Now, looking at it from the outside, maybe that's not what you think you mean. But it's really hard to say, God be with you, when someone's lost someone. So we come up with a replacement. And the Hebrew's not that easy. May the holy, blessed place of being be with you among all others who mourn. Well, it's a long way of saying, God be with you. That's the traditional thing to say. In Sephardic Judaism, it's Min Hashemayim Tanachumu, may you be comforted from heaven. That translates as, may God be with you. But it makes us a little uncomfortable because it evokes, may the bearded dude in the sky force your life to be something. I reject that. I think as Jews, that's why we struggle to walk into a synagogue and say, Baruch atah Adonai, blessed are you, eternal, because we can't reconcile that we don't agree that there's a bearded dude in the heaven getting ready to zap us, but yet all of our prayers sure feel like we're evoking that. And so when someone's died, we say long life, and when we say Baruch atah Adonai, well, we just avoid coming to shul. But maybe it's something else that's being said here. Maybe there's a way out of this existential ennui. Let's go back to that chaos from the very beginning. It's funny. As soon as we step into this place where we become conscious that the word God, however we say it in Hebrew, if we're saying Elohim or the Yud He Vav He, so Adonai, however it is we are using that, the more we get into Judaism, the more we realize it's a placeholder. We throw away, we burn idols, but we still evoke God. We still try to find some way to dance around something. And the further we get into mysticism and the further we get even into rational Judaism, the more our sages try to get us to understand that this is a unifying concept, not a person, not a place, not a thing. It's something that binds us all together. Et. See, I want to challenge this translation and think that maybe God was indeed with Joseph. Because the first word, vayhi, means and was. Okay? Yehi is was in this case, and the vav is and or so. So vayhi and was, yud he vav he. Well, we translate that as God, but it's also the to be verb. It's not a name at all. And so we could first of all say, and God was leading to Joseph? That the direct object of God in that moment was Joseph? Except for the fact that God's name also means was. Yeh asher yeh, I am that I am. So existence existed, towards Joseph. It's getting really obscure. Let's try this in one other way. The more chaotic things are in the world, the more pattern there actually is. Chaos is the fact that every one of us to exist broke the odds. Someone write me what the odds are. If you're a statistician, you know anything about the Human Genome Project, what are the odds that I exist? That the combination of genes brought this about, or that you exist, or that any of us exist. See, we talk all the time about, well, that's not going to happen. That's 1,000,000,000 to 1. Well, we're all 1,000,000,000 to 1. We all should not exist, but we do. All more than 7 billion of us are 1,000,000,000 to 1 chances. We've all won the lottery through mere existence. We are the pattern that comes from chaos. We are the proof that the more chaotic things get, the more there actually is meaning. See, existential ennui, the reason so many people say God is dead is because the more we learn, the more it feels like the universe is just this big, cold, empty place. But the more it's big, cold, and empty, the more we realize that there are perfect patterns within it. And you know what? I'm going to call him God. My life is not random. It's part of something that's magnificent, only if for the fact that I can conceive of that. And so this message of what it meant to say that God was with Joseph, it meant that in that minute, a pattern of existence was forming around his life that was going to lead to something else. That's why it's used in those 4 times, going to war for an existential peril. When are we with God? It's another way of saying in that moment, something, a pattern, is forming around us. I think in the darkness, we all feel really alone. And there have been more deaths in the community, and someone from my former community died 2 days ago, and it's affected me a little bit. We feel alone the darker it gets. And the more we study Judaism and the rationality behind it, the more it can feel like, what are we even doing bothering? Because if, say, Baruch Atah Adonai, there's not a bearded dude there. Well, the entire idea is to stop thinking that we're rejecting a bearded dude and realize that we're trying to find a way into this brilliant pattern of interconnectedness. The Russians were able to break codes because the more random the universe is, the more of a perfect pattern there is within it. Doesn't that actually tell us something about the nature of God? And the fact that we exist, the nature of reality? Yeah, this was a little bit over the top today. But I'm tired of feeling lonely sometimes when I look out into the sky. And I'm tired of feeling like everything that we as humans go through is for nothing. I think that what our tradition is saying is, when we're at our deepest point, God's with us. And maybe it's going to take us some work to understand that it's okay to not only say that and think that, but there's a truth that our unbelievable patterns are part of a truly existing, by all mathematical laws, amazing pattern. And maybe it's okay for us to feel a little bit of comfort by the fact that we are a part of something that's bigger and beautiful and perfect and strong. So you know what? As it gets dark outside and as we step into places of fear, may God be with us. Shabbat Shalom. We are on page 310 for Aleinu. Please rise. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'atei gdula le'otzeh bereshit, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim ve'natan lanu et Torato, v'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim, lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסר הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים, ואלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבביך,
כי אדוני הוא האלוהים, בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת עינו.
Page 313. Therefore, Almighty God, we put our hope in you. Soon let us witness the glory of your power, when the worship of material things shall pass away from earth, and prejudice and superstition shall at last be cut off. When the world will be set right by the rule of God, and all humanity shall speak out in your name, and all the wicked of the earth shall turn to you. Then all who inhabit this world shall meet in understanding, and shall know that we are all partners in the repairing of your world. For yours alone is the true kingdom, and only the glory of your rule endures forever. So it is written in your Torah, the Eternal shall rule forever and ever. So it is prophesied, the Eternal shall be sovereign over all the earth. On that day the Eternal shall be one, and known as one.
ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
We turn our thoughts to those that we've lost in recent days and those that we have lost in previous years. We first of all think of those that we've lost in just the last week and the last few days. We mourn for the loss of Peter Clausen, the father of Carol Ann Israel. May his name be for a blessing. Just yesterday, we found out that Linda Harrison's son, Emmanuel Pine, passed, and our thoughts go out to Linda and her family, and may Emmanuel's memory forever be a blessing. We will be having a Shiva at some point, and then some sort of memorial service in January, so be on the lookout for those. And then in my old congregation, we lost to COVID just this past week a gentleman by the name of Jamie Bellitz. Jamie, a warrior in profound ways, and so we're with Melody and Sarah, and may all of their memories forever be a blessing. We also think of Muriel Ottlestone, the mother of Robert Ottlestone, who is still in the period of Shloshim, in deep mourning for Muriel, and may her memory forever be a blessing. This list gets long when it's dark outside. It's part of what happens at this time of year. And so we think in our community of those that we've lost at this time in years past. We think of Flora Hackner, the mother of Leslie Newton, and of Rebecca Prince Levy, the mother of Elsha Prince. We think of Esther Holman, the grandmother of Pam Mason. We think of Fortuny Bunnan, the mother of Norma Shaw. And we think of Donald Davison, mourned by the entire Sinai family, along with Anu Morris and Barnett Plotkin and David Vining. We think of Gerald Vale, the father of Barry Vale, and of Joyce Shapiro, the grandmother of Melanie Epstein. We think of Hilda Studley, the mother of Michael Grant, and of Drori Ra'anan, the son-in-law of Maxine Brown, the husband of Sally Brown, the father of Daniel and Naomi Ra'anan. We think of Michael Wolfson, the husband of Margaret Wolfson. We think of Julianne Zolte, the wife of Nigel Zolte, and of Peter Morris, the father of Julian Morris, and of Viri Udrich Cohen, the father's partner of Dolph Mogendorf. May all of their memories forever be a blessing. We always have names that are missing, and there are usually a multitude of them this time of year. Even if you are by yourself, we have the idea of the butterfly effect in chaos theory, the idea that a butterfly flaps their wings in the UK and there is a typhoon in Australia. The idea is you never know what even changing a sound vibration might bring about in the world. And so I think it's something very real and very true when we call out names, even if we are not in shul, even if we're by ourselves. I ask you to call out those names of those that you're mourning right now. Zichronam Levracha. For those of you that are in mourning or commemorating your site, please rise. And the rest of us join in solidarity as we step into this place of Kaddish. Yit Gadal.
Shalom bimroma, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imeru. Amen. May the source of strength grant strength to all those who are in mourning. May we all say, Amen. A few announcements. We have another Gateways into Judaism class this Sunday. I think we're up to Second Temple Times, which means we get to talk about the Maccabees. How could that timing have possibly worked out? Sidurim are available for order and pay via the website. When an order's been placed, Pippa will contact to arrange collection of Siddur. Apparently this has been wildly successful. It's brilliant. I love that more and more of us have a Siddur at home from this community. I think it's important. It's also a lot easier to follow along with what we're doing here. And then finally, this is second night of Hanukkah, all 8 nights. I saw many of you on last night. All 8 nights, someone in the community is leading a Zoom session. I am leading the one on Sunday. I don't have the list in front of me, but get onto our website and you will see that we have something going on every night. So join in with the community, and there's something quite beautiful about that happening, and kavod and gratitude to all of you who have chosen to lead and welcome us into your house as you light your Chanukiot. With that one, I think that we are about at the end of a service. If I have the right music up, we will do a little bit of Oseh Shalom to close out this space of Kabbalat Shabbat and Ma'ariv Shabbat. Oseh Shalom b'mroma, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oseh Shalom b'mroma, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oseh Shalom b'mroma, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Oseh Shalom b'mroma, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oseh Shalom b'mroma, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oseh Shalom b'mroma, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. All right, for those who are still here and who are doing Kaddish with me, pour yourself a little fruit of the vine as we gather together on page, I believe that would be 452. Va'erev va'evoker yom hashishi, va'echulu shamayim ve'aretz v'chol tzva'am. Vayechal Elohim bayom hashvi'i melakto asher asa. Vayishbot bayom hashvi'i mikol melakto asher asa. Vayavarch Elohim et yom hashvi'i vaykadesh oto. Ki vo shavat mikol melakto asher bara Elohim la'asot. Savri chavarai. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pori hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher kedeshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu. Ve'shabbat kodsho b'varatzon hinchelanu zikaron le'maaseh v'reshit ki hu yom techila le'mikrayei kodesh zecher l'tziat mitzrayim ki vanu v'chata ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim ve'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ha'shabbat. L'chaim. And for the 21 of you that are still here,
Thank you for sticking around. Thank you for making it through one of the more obscure sermons I've given in a while, but we must do that on occasion. That's absolutely worth the l'chaim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'achol niyeh bidvaro l'chaim. Shabbat shalom, everyone.